just to add a little bit, there were 3 brilliant brothers. And when I look at the 4 children that my father had, I wonder where the brilliance went, because we've all had totally undistinguishable lives. My older brother is a school teacher. He was a school teacher, didn't do really anything special other than produce 2 amazing sons. My sister lives on a mashab in Israel and is very happy, just doing as little as possible, and admits that. And my younger brother just does what he does. I mean, we really, I know this sounds funny, but our fathers were absolutely brilliant. Ernst, in addition to winning medals in the, I think it was the Maccabeah Games, but it was he won a gold medal high diving, and we can't figure out if it was the Maccabeah Games or if it was the Student Olympics or something similar. Have been Googling that a little bit. But in addition to that, he was a brilliant violinist. He always wanted to be a composer, but never got around to that because he had to support a family of 4 children, and that was very difficult working for the government. What Lisa was saying about how carefree the family was, I don't think I realized that until I saw this video just a few short days ago, because he was never carefree at home. They were incredibly stressed after having had to leave Austria during the war, and yes, he was in confinement on the Isle of Man, and he had to talk his way out of that by letting them know that he wasn't quite normal, because he actually was a genius.
Do you remember when you talked his way into flying a helicopter?
No, but he would talk his way into a lot of different things, and he would make strange comments like, "Man will land on the moon in our lifetime." And he spent 7 of the years when we were growing up in mental institutions because people thought he wasn't normal. And he really was abnormal. He spoke 6 languages. When he was, towards the end of his life, he was teaching himself Chinese. He was one of just 12 Western scientists invited to go to Red China in 1965. The government allowed him to go. They wouldn't pay his way, so he took the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Apart from his diving and water skiing, I mean, he really was an athlete, but what happened was that his heart gave out. There was nothing sadder than seeing an intelligent person who was very athletic when they were younger and watching them deteriorate because the heart doesn't function anymore. He was a real disciplinarian. He was an astronomer. We had to watch the stars regularly. He was a horticulturalist. We had to weed and grow every imaginable type of fruit that you can do. Education was mandatory, and so every summer we all piled in the back of a Daimler, 4 children in the back of a car. It's not good, as you can imagine, on a very tight budget, so we could visit every cathedral and every museum, which we didn't want to do. We just wanted to stay home and eat ice cream and go swimming. But there wasn't a budget for that, so he was all about education. He told me if I wanted to learn art, that I could just practice until I got good at it. He told me if I wanted to learn a language, I could go to any country in the world, especially where I didn't speak the language, and I would learn very quickly or be hungry. But he said that science is mandatory. It's absolutely essential for us to learn the basic foundational principles. And the only way I was allowed to get out of that environment and leave this unbelievably disciplinarian home was to go to college, go to university and study engineering. So I graduated in engineering only to find out they weren't hiring women at that time in England. So that was interesting. But he was just an absolute brilliant man that didn't know how to show his love because of the stress he was under financially. And it was a really sorry, a really sad situation. I don't remember much happiness from the childhood at all. But what I was sharing with a couple of you earlier on today is we discovered just a few months ago that he had journaled for my brother from the day my brother was born. He completed 2 journals of every tiny movement, speech, everything that my brother ever did. He started one on the day that I was born, and I was given that just last November. And it was absolutely amazing that he had, how much he cared, but he didn't know how to express it. My sister got half a journal and my younger brother didn't get any, but that's just the way it goes when you get to the 4th child. We each have Each of the 4 siblings had 2 children each. My sister lives in Israel with her 2 children. One is an unbelievable ballerina, the other one is a musician, a guitarist. My older brothers had 2 children, one of whom passed very suddenly just 3 months ago at the age of 28 on his birthday, which happened to be Father's Day. And it was an absolutely amazing situation. We don't know, there was something, it was like a hardening of the heart muscle, or we're not quite sure what the situation was. But we're incredibly at peace with him. He was an amazing young man, also a brilliant musician, and the world champion grandmaster of Sudoku. Yes. His older brother is also a brilliant musician. You know, the kids have all turned out to be brilliant. I think some of it, well, my children, okay. It's very hard for me to do. My son lives in Manhattan and graduated magna cum laude with a triple major after scraping through high school, but because he went through the Israeli 3-year military on the front lines and a lot of personal development work with Tony Robbins, he's done incredibly well. My daughter seems to choose the path where if she can find a brick wall, she will walk into it, and I just pray every day that she'll find some peace in her life as well. She's a brilliant musician. She's also brilliant at painting houses, building decks, waiting tables, and bartending. But you've got to diversify if you're a musician. I think we've got musicians in the room here. But all in all, you know, we come from a family where education was paramount. My mother was a professional dancer. She was a chorus line dancer, and my father fell in love with a photograph of her before he ever met her. Her mother was an opera singer and starred at the Vienna Opera House. I have pictures of her starring in Carmen. So we have music and dance in every area, but what we had to learn was the science and the foundation of life, and as soon as I could let it go, I let it go. But that was it. Thank you.